government sent out search parties to find the 14th Dalai Lama Lamo Dunduk when he was 2 years old. The 13th Dalai Lama died in 1933, and the senior Lama had a clear vision that he would be reborn in Tibet when he saw Tibetan letters across the lake. The 14th Dalai Lama used to be able to identify specific items that were the 13th Dalai Lama's possession. He had to separate from his parents and attend a monastery, and his only two consolations were his older brother and his monk. During the winter of 1940, he was officially placed as the new spiritual leader of Tibet. His wisdom grew while he trained in many scholarly subjects in mathematics or sciences from a young age. At the age of 15, he was placed as the temporal leader of Tibet over 6 million people.
In the summer of 1950, the Chinese stepped up their aggression towards Tibet, raiding a Tibetan outpost. The Chinese had previously, quote, stated their intention of liberating Tibet from the hands of imperialist aggressors, but now they were making definitive offensive moves. Numbering only 8,500 men, the Tibetan army stood no chance when the Chinese army of 80,000 crossed the Drichu River and quickly began taking control of Tibetan provinces. As the situation with China became increasingly worse, the government decided that His Holiness, then only 15 years old, should be given full political control, and on November 17, 1950, he officially came into power as the leader of Tibet. Amid this chaos, His Holiness moved to southern Tibet in case he had to seek exile in India, appointed 2 prime ministers, and began reaching out to foreign powers for help. He sent delegations to Nepal, Britain, and America to ask for protection from Chinese aggression, and one to China to seek a peaceful solution. Every power to which he looked turned his delegates away, and his delegates who were sent to China were forced at gunpoint to sign the 17-point agreement for the peaceful liberation of Tibet on May 23, 1951, which essentially turned Tibet over to Chinese control. Over the next 9 years, His Holiness attempted to minimize China's growing power in Tibet, even visiting Mao Zedong in China in 1954 and 1955. China's grip on Tibet, however, grew stronger, and the Chinese brutality towards the Tibetan people only increased. Tensions only became worse over the next several years, and after receiving an invitation on March 10, 1959, from Chinese General Zhang Qinwu to attend a Chinese performance with only unarmed bodyguards and no soldiers, His Holiness and the people of Tibet became even more afraid of an attempt on his life. On March 17, 1959, the Nechung Oracle told His Holiness to leave Tibet, and His Holiness performed a divination which confirmed the decision to do so. That night, His Holiness disguised himself as a soldier and escaped Lhasa. After an arduous three-week journey, he crossed the Kichu River into India, along with an entourage and some members of his family.
Once he got to India, the Dalai Lama met with the Indian Prime Minister, and together they worked on building schools and education systems for the Tibetan refugees that were also exiled.
Dalai Lama spoke the words, "My religion is very simple, my religion is kindness." And this is a very universal topic because all religions believe in this, and all religions advocate for peace, forgiveness, contentment, and self-discipline, which are the main things that Dalai Lama was a proponent of. And he emphasized that all human beings are the same, essentially, and that we don't want suffering. We want to end suffering in all beings, and he is a very big supporter of the concept of harmony within all religions. I was reading this book one time, and it was talking about a huge elephant, and there are 5 people that are blindfolded. Each of them represent a religion: Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and all of them, or each of them, were holding a part of the elephant, and they were all blindfolded. And at the end of the day, even though the Hinduism person was holding the trunk of the elephant, or the Christianity person was holding the foot of the elephant, they were all holding the elephant. And in that sense, Dalai Lama is trying to emphasize that we are all the same. We all believe in the same things, and we all value the same things. He also is a huge believer in preserving the Tibetan language and the culture behind it. He wants to keep the Tibetan Buddhist philosophies, the continuation of it, and he really focuses on the wisdom and the act of avoiding ignorance. So he has been westernizing Buddhism across Europe, across the Americas, and the globalization of Buddhism has risen. And I could say a huge part of that is from the Dalai Lama because he is such a huge spiritual leader across the world. Because of his common philosophies, because of the concepts behind all religions and what essential things are in common between all of them. So those are my thoughts about the Dalai Lama. Thank you for listening.
So His Holiness the Dalai Lama wrote 18 Rules to Live By. And I remember watching, it was in the form of a video, where we watched it in class, and it was honestly one of the best minute, and I think it was a minute and 59 seconds that I've ever watched. And all 18 rules were so amazing and relevant to my life, and I'm sure the lives of so many people. But I had two particular favorites that I think about every day now since watching that video, and that have helped me in my life since then. And the first one is, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. And I think that's really important because growing up, I'm an athlete and I'm a very competitive person. So I've constantly my entire life been trying to win. And not that I'm a sore loser, but I really don't enjoy losing. And I know nobody does, but for me, especially being so competitive, it really eats away at me. And when I was younger, I used to get really upset, and I used to blame myself every time I lost a race or a game, or even if I got a bad grade on a test. And as I've gotten older, and especially after hearing this quote, I've learned that all the times that I've lost, I've gained more than I have when I won. And I look back on all the times that I've lost more than I do on the times that I've won. And I've learned something, and I think that that's the most important part of life because, I don't do it. I know how to fix my mistakes, and I know where I went wrong. And so next time I'm in the same situation, I can fix it and hopefully have a better outcome. The second rule is, when you've realized that you made a mistake, take immediate steps to correct it. So, relating to me being a very competitive person, I also have a lot of pride. And I don't like to admit when I'm wrong, even when I know I'm wrong. And that's something I'm getting better at, and my friends are telling me that I'm getting better at it. But I think this is really important because when I get in an argument with someone, I get so caught up in the argument that I forget that it's probably not the biggest deal in the world. And a lot of times an argument that I'm in, I've done something to make that person upset, and I have too much pride to admit it a lot of times, and it just causes a lot of animosity and tension. And gosh, I've spent weeks where I've been upset because I will not say sorry when I know I've done something wrong. This actually affected me a little while ago when I got in an argument with my friend because out of anger I said something mean, and we didn't talk for about 2 weeks. And he's my best friend, and it was one of the worst 2 weeks of my life. And finally I had to say sorry, and once I said sorry, it felt so good. I felt like I was forgiving myself. I felt like he knew that I was sorry, and after saying it the first time, I've become more comfortable with saying sorry because we all make mistakes. We all say things we don't mean. We all do things we don't mean to do, just based off of our emotions. But I think the most important part of that is to learn how to handle it. And sometimes you can't control how you react to something, but you can control how you react to how you reacted. And I think that that's a really important rule that the Dalai Lama came up with. So those are 2 rules that have, helped me so much in my life so far, and that I'll never forget. and that I will keep remembering for the rest of my life.
His Holiness has clearly lived a unique life fraught with stress and hardship from a young age, and these unbelievable difficulties make his profound wisdom, kindness, and lightheartedness even more inspiring and impressive. As we have heard so many times in class and read in his book, Beyond Religion, His Holiness approaches the massive responsibility that is being the spiritual guide for millions of people who have lost their homes as they know them, with a unique sort of informality that is both comforting and reassuring. It takes a truly pure person to go through the extreme stress, responsibility, and hardship that he has, and emerge from it a kind, benevolent man. I think that every leader and every individual should learn from his style of leadership. Be it in front of hundreds of thousands of people or small gatherings, the Dalai Lama is a shining example of Buddhism and humanity at its best. He has profound respect for every person, regardless of his or her opinion or religions, and he improves the mood of every situation with subtle humor and informality. The true beauty of his humor, however, is its complete respect for everyone around him. It has no victim and no motive other than to bring happiness. Politics in America, as well as in the rest of the world, would look very different if every politician took himself a little less seriously. As the leader of a long-troubled people, the Dalai Lama's kind-heartedness and devotion serve as an inspiration to anyone, leader or not, who is navigating hard times. We should all take the time to laugh and look on the bright side. We should all show respect to everyone, regardless of his or her background, and we should all strive for the wisdom, kindness, and compassion that His Holiness the Dalai Lama effortlessly emanates.